Welcome back. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. This is the one and only IT in the D Show. I'm your host, Bob Waltenspiel, hanging out with producer, co-host extraordinaire, Randy Walker. Guest this week, this is going to be a fun one. It's a new topic for us. We got Jacki Lutz in the house. She is from Auto Care Association. She is the host of Carpool Confessions, and she is an automotive aftermarket advocate. We're going to be talking about right to repair and a bunch of cool new topics that we haven't talked about since probably John Deere like 8 years ago. But hey, you can find us online at itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Don't forget meetup.com/itinthed. The 19th, if you're listening, it's tonight, this week, Thursday, third Thursday at Nancy Whiskey. It's going to be the last one for the summer at Nancy's. Hopefully we'll still have good weather. And then we're going to be at Scout Ferndale for the next until weather breaks, and then we're going to be back at the Detroit Shipping Company. We do have some news to break. I don't know if you want me to tell you now, Randy. The old podcast studios that we used to have in the podcast and Detroit Shipping Company are getting reopened. So Randy and I are starting the Detroit Podcasting Company, and we're going to have our studio on the second floor at the Shipco. Looking forward to it. We just moved in the mics and the gear, and we're building it right now. So,
and before we get started, I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Nuri.
It's his birthday today?
His birthday is today. Well, today when this episode drops, not today when we're recording, but you know.
Oh, 'cause he didn't put it on Facebook. So if you don't put it on Facebook, I don't know what your birthday is.
Yeah.
Unless it's mine.
You'll see the notification when this episode drops on Facebook.
But happy birthday, Nuri. And of course, he has his party on the day I'm DJing and Oktoberfest. So we'll have to figure something out. Jacki, how are you? I love talking to other podcasters because this is an easy one. I don't have to coax any answers out of you because you're a talker like me. So how are you? How are they treating you?
I'm good. They are treating me well. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Anytime. I saw you. I have to admit, I told you before the show, but your LinkedIn is fantastic. There's certain people that have mastered that art of being good at LinkedIn. It's very difficult because a lot of people are too much, or they're not at all, or they're just spammy. And I saw your content and I'm like, this is a human being I need to talk to. So I sincerely appreciate the time. I want to dive, I guess, tell me what the Auto Care Association does. Then I really want to dive into this right to repair because I'm insanely intrigued, and I'll tell you why. But yeah, what's the Auto Care Association? What's going on there?
Yeah, so the Auto Care Association really represents the entire auto care industry. So it's really a lot of people call it the automotive aftermarket or after sales industry. And we represent everybody from the technician to from the independent shop down the road at Bob's Garage, all the way up, through the distribution chain, all of the parts stores, retailers, all the way through to parts manufacturers and everybody in between. So really, we represent the entire industry, and we support them through kind of protecting and advancing their interests to help their businesses be successful. So we offer education resources, a lot of different technologies. We do their standards for the industry, market intelligence, communication resources, networking opportunities, all things like that. And one of the things that we do is advocacy for them on the Hill. So, trying to advance their interests through legislation and meeting with legislators and ensuring that our industry is going to stay strong for many, many years to come.
I want to get into right to repair, but it's funny how like technology changes things. Like when I grew up, my dad, something was wrong, he'd get under the hood with a wrench, or we'd do our own oil. These days we have our little diagnostic plug-in tool that syncs up with our smartphones that tells us exactly what's wrong, and we can walk into the dealers. I guess it's a good thing for giving us knowledge. But before we used to actually work on it, but now the little app tells us on our phone.
Yeah, it's a computer on wheels now.
It totally. Well, that's one of my beefs is the automotive industry calling themselves software companies. Well, I don't want to get too deep on that, but like stuff like that. I understand they're moving more towards infotainment and trying to do subscription based models, but like they're transportation companies. Let's get it straight. You don't have to comment on that because I know you're in the business, but those words are mine and mine alone. But the right to repair is what's going on that we don't know about? Is it because I remember when we talked to John Deere way back when, they weren't allowing the farmers to work on their own gear. They had to take it to a John Deere certified, and it caused a huge stink. And apparently the work you guys are doing, something similar is coming down the pike.
Yep. Very, very similar. Basically, like you said, a lot of the older models of vehicles, your local technician, at Bob's Garage or whatever used to be able to plug into just about any vehicle to the OBD2 port and download all the diagnostic information that they need from the vehicle to understand what is wrong and diagnose the issue and then fix it. The newer models that are coming out, instead of having that OBD2 port option, they are wirelessly transmitting all of that diagnostic information directly to an automaker's servers. So the local shop is unable to access those diagnostic codes, so they can't fix the vehicle. Or sometimes they can fix parts of the vehicle, but then they got to send it to the dealership to actually turn off the light. There's just a lot of little annoyances that are costing the independence world, a lot of money, and it's making it harder and harder for them to stay in business. And it's taking the right away from the consumer to choose where they get their property fixed and who fixes it. So it's really all about consumer choice. And we just want drivers to have access to their own data and be able to choose where they take their vehicle to get it fixed. It's really as simple as that. And so it just includes the automakers opening up that option again for independents or independent repair shops.
So where is the data going and who's doing what with it today, or with these new vehicles? Sorry.
Really, it's going directly to the OEMs. So directly to the auto manufacturers, so it'll go to their dealerships. So people are being forced to take their vehicles to a dealership, versus being able to support whatever local mechanic that they'd like to support.
Interesting. So I'll give an example of my house. There's Al's, I've had cars worked on with both Al's and at the VW dealership. It depends on what's wrong with it. And I want that choice because I love the dealers, but everyone knows they're more expensive. Everyone knows that sometimes they get stuff, you could drive another 2 years on whatever they're fixing today. Yeah, I know. I don't want to I'm trying to be polite. I'm not trying to say this is collusion, but what's the whole, is this the auto OEMs basically saying, hey dealers, we support you. This is what we're doing to make you better. Cause you would think better service would drive that alone. What's pushing this? What's driving it? Do you even know?
It's greed. Honestly, it's wanting to, they just want to control the whole market. So the OEMs are really, the dealers are really the OEMs. So, they will transfer this information to the dealerships. And especially, you think about vehicles too, in the life of a vehicle, the first 5 years of the vehicle, it's usually under warranty. So people do bring it to the dealership, right? So we're actually just talking about the older vehicles. Most vehicles on the road, I think are 12 years old. That's the average age of a vehicle right now on the road is 12 years. There's a very large percent, I think 70% of vehicles or something like that are actually 7 years old. So they're all out of warranty. And so, it's really wanting to kind of monopolize that market, but it takes away the consumer's choice to choose where they get it done. It's 36% more costly usually to get your vehicle fixed at a dealership. And it also takes a lot longer. I don't know what the dealerships are like near you, but I know I live in a very rural place. You have to make an appointment and it could be a week out before you can get, your oil changed or your brakes fixed, So imagine that on a massive scale. And I think it's 75% of the bays in the US are independent repair shops. So imagine if that goes away because right to repair doesn't go through. And those independent repair shops aren't able to keep their doors open. So everybody is forced to go to dealers. That's kind of the future we're looking at.
If you drive around and you look for individual repair shops, they're as ubiquitous as a McDonald's or a Starbucks.
Sure.
If you drive around Rochester Hills right now, they are everywhere. You just may not know it. Funny because you mentioned that 35% thing. I bought my daughter a 2000, 9, 10, 11 Mini Cooper, her first car. And it was a stick shift and I knew the clutch was going to blow. And of course the clutch goes. So I take it to the Mini Coupe dealer. And it was like $3,600 for the clutch. And I take it to the local guy on Hamlin, the transmission shop, and it was $1,150 or something. Mm-hmm. And it was and he was done in a day. And, nothing against the dealers or anything. I understand they have markup and overhead and cost and everything, but like, that's a huge difference when you're talking about like, a 16-year-old kid's car. She's lucky dad's paying for it. If she had to, she would have been riding a bike. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
those stories are every day.
Yep. And there's been a lot of surveys. I think just in general, the typical driver 2-to-1 would prefer to take their vehicle to an independent repair shop versus the dealership. So, we're really just trying to fight for that right for consumers to continue to be able to choose that.
See, now here's the funny thing. I know a bunch of friends that have EVs. I never ask them what breaks, how do you fix it, what do you do? It's how long does your battery last? It's like, and I'm just like, oh, and that's the end of our conversations. We never really talk about fixing it. I guess I feel like nothing breaks on those things. Am I a complete idiot? On the EV cars. I mean, obviously shock struts, brakes, tires, but I'm talking like engine wise, there's no pistons. I mean, what's failing? I mean, who's fixing those today? Is it only dealers? Is that where we're starting this whole right to repair thing?
No, there's definitely independent repair shops. We have a lot of members that are independent repair shops that are specifically working with EVs. So things do break on them. I don't know what. You got to imagine though. I mean, those things are so heavy. I just have to assume the brakes, you constantly have to change those brakes. It seems like to stop a car that heavy, but I don't know. I'm not sure what breaks on them.
I just know a friend of mine, he had like 35 miles left and he's like, I'll be fine. I'll charge it in the morning or something. And then it was wintertime and it literally went to 0 and his car got stuck. Anyway, we can do the EV conversation for another day, another time. But like, even so, like, they're not going after like aftermarket parts. Like because originally when you brought up all the aftermarket dealers and stuff, that's got to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like you think everybody mods their cars. I think usually when they're from 16 to 25, all us boys were like, we buy stupid stuff to mod our cars. We're not talking about this. We're literally talking about just the diagnostic port and like self-diagnosing your cars.
Yeah, really. Like it's all we're asking for is real-time data on diagnosing that vehicle. Like all of the other data that vehicle collects on you, which is a lot. Like they know your routes that you take daily. They know what time of day you typically, pass a certain restaurant. They know how much you weigh. Like that car knows all kinds of data and information about you. All we're asking for is that diagnostic information and data.
I was on the fence until you said they know how much I weigh. Now I'm going to be sitting in Lansing with you fighting. Like, you better not.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? And like they can literally kind of like guess like who's driving the car based off of how heavy it is when you're sitting in it. It's just kind of weird that the amount of information that they can gather through the vehicle is kind of crazy these days.
Well, I know like we willingly gave up our location data to get free map software. Everybody didn't care about that. And then we willingly gave up how we drive to Progressive to save $10 a month. We willingly gave that up. Is this something else that like, are they going to try to entice us to willingly give up this right by giving us something in return, free infotainment? Like what, are the OEMs like trying to give a little, trying to weigh out that scale of balance?
Not that I'm aware of. And I hope they don't get any ideas.
I just gave them ideas.
Through your podcast. Yeah.
We did. They all listen. So I know we're all in deep trouble.
Yeah. Way to go.
Free infotainment. But I know like a lot of them, day job, we do a lot of tech consulting and we talk to, a lot of times like, hey, this thing's broke, and they'll send you a 300-page PDF. And so like they're digitizing that stuff now. Back in the old just Android Auto, Apple Auto days they're going to the wayside. They're starting to build LLMs with trying to do why can't I think of the stupid name, Randy? It's going to drive me nuts. See, this is what happens when ChatGPT, Gen AI, God bless America. I talked about it 38,000 times today at work. Doing Gen AI models for like for instructional manuals and diagnostics, which is like kind of a cool thing. So I mean, again, we'll give up we'll give up some of just to get those tools. We'll give up some of the diagnostic capabilities. I don't know. I'm just thinking in the future, what, if we were able to talk to our cars and they can tell us what's wrong, maybe they'll give us that,
Yeah, I mean, they might be able to tell you what's wrong, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have access to fix it.
Fair. God,
Yeah.
see?
I was going to say, is part of this that they're making the car so that you can't do things to them yourself?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a strategy of theirs, but if you think about even some parts of the car that used to just be hard parts that you can swap out, and now they have a sensor in them. I used to work for a manufacturer that did TPMS, tire pressure monitoring systems. So changing a tire used to be a pretty simple process. Now there's sensors in every single one, and you have to relearn the vehicle, to make sure the vehicle understands which sensors and which tires so that it can tell you how much air pressure is in each one. And it's just this whole complicated thing now. Times that by, hundreds of other parts on the vehicle that are now smart.
Yeah, the thing that came to mind to me was swapping out your head unit. Now the infotainment system is fully integrated into the car that there's no way you could swap that out because you'd lose so much data and access and things like that.
Yeah.
See, back in the 80s, we just changed the oil, put gas in. Actually, I didn't start driving till 89, I think. Gas was 99 cents. Simpler life, cassettes. That's all you cared about.
I was going to say, you didn't want to swap out the built-in 8-track player for a cassette player when those came out?
Randy didn't. 8-tracks, that was older.
You didn't? Yeah, but you were driving older cars then, right? You weren't driving a brand new car.
My first car was an 81 Buick Skylark.
Okay. Or when CD players came out, you want to swap that cassette player for a CD player?
But see, I remember that it was a weekend. Sorry, Jackie, you're going to have to put up with my reminiscing stories. Going to the flea market, buying a new whatever deck that I liked, which was like a 6-disc CD changer. That was like the cool thing at the time. Pulling the radio out, hot wiring everything stripping wires with your teeth, putting it all back in, screwing it in, getting a new faceplate. And it looked semi-clean enough. Like you couldn't no way you could do that today.
Yeah.
Looking at the cars, but those, I look back at that fondly, and the manufacturers probably looked at me like I was the devil by ripping apart their beautiful dashboard.
It used to be a flex for me. My first car was a 99 Chevrolet Cavalier, and I actually had a built-in CD player, and none of my friends did. They all had the cassette. Remember the cassette tape that had a wire to like your Walkman?
I had that until 2015. I got a 2016. That was the first car I had that was way more modern. Yeah, I had a
Trapper Keeper of CDs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I actually had a dash mounted Sony Discman velcroed to my dash, wired to the tape deck.
So fancy.
If you were cool, you had the 12 in the trunk CD changer. That was like you were the best ever.
Which seems so normal at the time, but if you think about it now,
well,
how
I always talk about the best money I spend ever. Everybody complains about subscriptions. Spotify for a Gen X music fan is the best money I ever could pay for, because I used to have to go to Harmony House for that one song. I paid $17.99 for this horrible CD that had that one song that would wear out in a week. And now I literally have the access to the world's music. With Shazam, I don't have to go to Record Time and sing songs to the guy behind the counter anymore. Like, you have no idea what, like, embracing technology and music. That was
I'm so happy for you.
Oh, I smell that sarcasm across. So talk to me about your podcast, Carpool Conversations. As soon as I saw that, I read it. It reminds me of the Jerry Seinfeld Coffee with Comedians.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite Netflix shows. So Carpool Conversations, this kind of like this show is like, what are the data center guys talking about at lunch? Like, what's Carpool Conversations about?
Yeah, so mine's just one of the 4 shows with AutoCare on air, and each show actually has its own kind of theme. So we have one that's very much oriented towards data and trying to understand data. One show that is really profiling CEOs and leaders, both inside our industry and outside of our industry. Another show that's more like headlines and more news related, which is our traction control show. And then there's mine that is more about professional development. So the whole idea about Carpool Conversations is, you get into a car with two of your friends, whether they're in the industry or not. And it's just supposed to be a little bit more candid, a little bit more fun, very relaxed conversations about a professional development topic. So we've hit on, work-life balance. We did one about introverts and extroverts. That was quite entertaining. Just did one about bragging about yourself and like how to do that in a nice way. Did one about health. We're kind of having fun just talking about, ways to develop our membership. And really, it's not just for our industry. It's anyone outside of our industry could learn from this show too. But it's just like how to, just do life better together. And, the whole idea is like we're all heading towards the same destination. So let's get there together. And we just kind of share our thoughts about different professional development topics.
It's funny because our show's evolved a little bit where we were talking men's health on one show. We talked about autism on another show. Like we start, I know you like, oh my God, IT, we're not have to talk about coding, are we? Like, no. It's kind of like the same. I'll be honest, it's probably 90% the same show, except you guys are, get into the car thing. I am intrigued about the data side though. Because I know like data monetization is a big topic every day at work. Gen AI, I remember it at this time, is another big topic, and what we're doing with all this data and how to secure it and all that. But like, what are the conversations going on around data in the auto industry?
Data's huge because, everybody, like all of our manufacturers and distributors makes decisions daily based around market intelligence. So I would say that the auto care industry is doing well on data. They've came so far just since I entered the industry 10 years ago, miles apart, just amazing. But there's a lot of like e-commerce type conversations happening, information and market intelligence just around like vehicle life, what kind of parts die, or like what is the words? Why can't I think of it? Lifespan of different parts on the vehicle. So
Sure.
What are those replacement rates? Sorry, I couldn't think of the words. Replacement rates and things like that. So data is huge. And that show, it's called Indicators. And what's cool about that show is our Mike Chung, who is our market intelligence director, he's usually on the other side of the mic, and he's usually talking to our members about all of the different market intel that we bring in as a benefit to our members. But he's actually on the other side of the mic, and he is talking to, different data service providers and asking them like, how do they come across the data? What do you think we should be doing with this data? What about this data should we be questioning? And like asking like really good questions just to help give people who are elbows deep every single day in data, like giving them a better idea of like how to wrap their heads around all of this information and really like how to use it in a way that actually benefits them.
One of the cool things I recently saw was a predictive analytics model on what cars should look like 4 years from now. Ooh. And it was, here's the 4 body styles, here's the 5 colors, here's the 30 things on the inside of the car that are going to check the most boxes with your consumers. Here's the CAD drawing. Here's the if it goes to EV, here's the new chassis. Here's the new batteries that you need. It's fascinating to me when you start getting into past machine learning when it's actually becoming intelligent. I know a lot of people like it, don't like it, because if you look at a design crew, they're like, oh, great. Now what am I going to do? I think this is just a help. It's kind of like with coders with kind of helping hands. Like I call it like an R2D2 model where like you're not getting rid of Luke Skywalker, you're adding an R2D2 that makes him better. I think that's the way that's just the way I look at Gen AI. It's like everybody's kind of the people that are scared of it, but the predictive analytic model are the ones that it's super cool in terms of getting me fired up talking about stuff. Now we were talking earlier on LinkedIn, and that's kind of one of your passion things is the personal branding side. Talking, are we pushing for kids to get into trades? Or are we backing them off? I keep hearing different messages about get into trades, don't get into trades. There's too many. There's not enough work.
There is so much opportunity for people in the trades, specifically in the auto industry. Like there is a technician shortage, and there is a bubble that's going to burst as so many technicians that we currently have who started out when cars looked very different, and they are looking to retire, and they're just, for decades, we were, students were being pushed towards those 4-year degrees, and the idea of a trade was kind of a less than, occupation. And now they pay well. They're fun. Anyone who likes to work with their hands, like that really is the career for them. And it's a huge ship to turn to change a culture from looking at people behind desks as being better than somebody who is working on a car. And especially now that cars really they're a computer on wheels. So you have to be able to code. You have to be able to have this engineering mindset in order to work on vehicles. And it's fun. Like, a lot of people like cars. There should just be no reason that you can't pursue that line of work. And that's another initiative that the Auto Care Association is going to start really revving up our engines on, is really, the workforce and how to get more people enthused again about working in the car industry and being able to work on vehicles.
I don't think they know. Like, I call him my little cousin. He's 40. My whole family was tool and die makers. They're all German immigrants, my cousins, my uncles, and my cousin got into it. And he, like 10 years ago, they flipped him to he goes, I'm just working on a computer right now. And he's making over 6 figures. He gets overtime. And you're looking at that going, it's not a bad gig. My dads and my uncles, they all relatively seem pretty happy. Maybe ask my mom after, but for the most part, it's good. It's honest, good work. And because I don't know what year, when they started getting nosed down, it was or thumb down or whatever the word terminology is. But I don't get it. It didn't, because everybody was, if you look at up until 2000, everybody, it was half and half. Blue collar, white collar was no big deal. And then it became this cultural shift.
Yeah. And look how many, high schools no longer have shop class, or, no longer have those.
They don't?
I mean, a lot of them don't. Mine didn't. And I graduated in 2005.
My daughter took ceramics. I don't know if I was like, why?
So did I.
Yeah. I know. Is that your Easy A class, Maggie? And she's like, and you took ceramics too? I'm like, what? I don't even know what do you do? You make dad's ashtrays that we don't smoke anymore,
I took a cooking class that was just like a blow off class. We just made cookies and ate them. It was just such a joke. You got to have those classes too. Helps you get through.
But see, again, if you have a cooking class, you got to teach, here's the 8 things you need to learn how to cook when you move out of the house. How to make eggs, how to make some sort of a pasta dish, how to make chicken, 3 different ways. Anyway. So personal branding, that's something that's always been I guess, I don't want to say near and dear to me, but it's always been own your name. That was something that's always been entrenched to me for my entire career. What's some good tips and tricks for, other than buying your name on every single platform just to make sure you control it? What's some other good topics for personal branding?
Yes, I love this subject. I fell into it, but I have really done so much research and I speak about it all the time. I absolutely love it. The number one thing that I tell people is your personal brand is really yours, right? So if you choose to really do the work and build it properly, you get to take that with you wherever you go. So I got laid off last year and nobody was more surprised than me. But because of all the work I did on my personal brand, I was able to take that on LinkedIn and immediately get offers. And because this personal brand came with me. And the number one thing that I would tell people to do if you're starting to pursue, doing more with your personal brand, especially online, is to really focus first on your values and do whatever exercises you can. I have the ones that I recommend, but you can go online. There's all kinds of ways to, really get your brain around what's important to you and what your values are. Do that first, get your top 5 values, and then every single thing that you do in your career, in your life, online, on LinkedIn, if it does not align with those values, you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be doing it. You need to redirect. I mean, I did that exercise way too late. I started, doing more on LinkedIn probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I didn't do the values exercise till about 2 years ago. And now I look back 4 or 5 years and I kind of can cringe a little bit at some things because there's some things that just did not align with my values, but it was what I was feeling at the time. And I would do that first before you do anything. But Having a strong personal brand is so important for you in your career. It can do wonders for you, the company that you work with. It's like you become a little influencer for your company, and it can do great things for your industry, whatever industry you're in. And specifically for like the auto care industry, we really encourage our members to get out there, talk about the industry, talk about your company, do that stuff on social so people can see all the opportunity that there is here. There's just so much opportunity with personal brand. It's not a buzzword.
That's really one thing. There's some people that argued with me about this, and I respect that. They're saying, nope, they're 9 to 5. They do their job, then they go home. I always said, at least so I'm relating kind of to the IT industry. I'm thinking of any industry, but like you should have hobbies that blend. So like if you're telling me you're a coder and you don't have a Git that you manage on all the time, a GitHub, and you don't have a Raspberry Pi server and you're not doing something stupid with it, like controlling your bathroom lights or whatever dumb thing you want to do, and you're not a gamer, or you're like, I feel like something's missing. And I've been like, kind of, if you're in the auto industry, I feel like if you're not going up to St. Ignace on, I forget what weekend my cousins all go. But if you're not like, if a 68 Camaro doesn't just go like, sweet mother of God, feeling like, I feel like, and again, though, if you do a good job, that's one thing, but like, I feel like your career and your personal should blend a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think that's, it should blend with your values, right? As long as it aligns. And frankly, like, even if you don't believe in personal branding, it doesn't mean that you don't walk around with a personal brand. Just because you're not paying attention to what that might be and making sure that it's what you want and it's actually going to get you to where you want to go. Maybe you're not that ambitious, but that doesn't mean that you don't walk around with a personal brand. We all have one. It's like every company has a brand. Some just aren't very powerful, right? That's kind of the same idea with a personal brand. You can either use it as a tool to amplify your presence or not, but you still have one.
But again, it's like, I don't even know how I saw your stuff. Someone must have liked it and it hit my thing. What I was like, that's someone that I needed to reach out to. Like, you know what I mean? It's very rare to, I guess, putting out good content. Like, you're doing all the right things. I'll just,
thank you.
That. And it was great talking to you, actually catching up. I actually had no idea about this whole no diagnostic port, you're not your own data thing. So like now I'm all fired up. I want to,
good.
Seriously, it's not, I don't like it. I'm going to have to, you know what? I got a 76 Caddy in the garage. I'm going to have to bust that thing out, and I'm just going to drive that for the rest of my life. Keep it out, keep it working. And then that's my only car going to be, because I love the new technology coming out, but I hate what they're doing at the same time. So it's just,
well, if anybody else is fired up, you can go to repairact.com. And you can you can send a letter to your legislator. It'll just ask you your name and like where you live, basically, and it'll connect you with your legislators. And there's an automatic letter there that you can send to them saying that you want them to support the right to repair. And that's probably the best thing anybody can do at this point, is to just make sure that their legislators know that this is important to them as a consumer.
Repairact.com. We will put that in the show notes. Jacki Lutz, it's an honor to meet you finally. And it was nice to have you on the show. And we hope either we can run into you at the meetups, or I'd love to guest on your show and talk about nothing with anyone. That's my passion.
Absolutely. I would love to have you on my show.
Done. You let me know when.
We'll be in contact.
Cool. Sounds good. Jacki Lutz, automotive aftermarket advocate from the Auto Care Association and the host of Carpool Conversations. Love to have her on the show, and we will see you soon. On behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor. Drink up your drinks, get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.